There have been some very interesting developments on the no contact journey. We were basically like hostages in our own garage. This is stalking. This is trespassing. This is harassment. Definitely got myself in a situation by moving across the street and buying a house in the same neighborhood as my birth person, but we've had some glimmers, which is this really cool journey that I've experienced with plastic surgery. Dr. Azizi totally killed it. He did amazing.
Hey friends, this is the Next Level Glam podcast, and I'm Glam Gal. Thank you for joining me as I discuss all things transformation, inside and out, with my sisters in Christ. Pull up a chair, it's about to go next level.
Hello friends, and welcome back to a new episode of the Next Level Glam podcast. I am Glam Gal, your host. And per usual, pretty darn excited that you pressed play to spend a little bit of time with me today. As you know, I'm ever learning to go with the flow with this podcast, and today might be a little bit of a mix of a couple of different things, some ramblings, who knows. But let's just say from the last episode, I definitely feel 1,000 times better, like in a different place, and truly feel like for the first time, possibly in a long time, if not ever, that you can be living two different truths at the same time. Like you can be enjoying life in one hand and in the other really be struggling. In the last episode, I shared a little bit about the struggle of coming down with some shingles, learning that it is directly correlated to stress. And obviously, if you've been listening to this podcast, you know where a lot of the stress in my life comes from. I also share that it's been about 6 months since starting therapy to work on that stress and to work on some of the other issues that I have with the no contact journey in my life and the standing PTSD that I'm learning to manage and live with. This year really has proved to be pretty challenging in its own way. It's like I can't really catch a break. It's like week after week after week after week after week after week, there's always something. And I don't remember that always being the case. There's that very real possibility that I'm dealing with some serious spiritual warfare and really having to come to terms with stepping back and letting the Lord fight my battles. And that's every single battle that I face, not just the one that I decide to surrender up to him, allegedly, because I have a really hard time, quote, surrendering. I'm always checking back in on that thing. I'm always questioning all the decisions I'm making as I learn to protect my family and myself during this really, really hard times. And that being said, I have had really positive things happening in my personal life that really is a huge contrast to the other things going in my life. So I'm really grateful because when I went no contact with the remaining parts of my family that needed to be no contact in late September, specifically my older sibling, I really felt such a huge thing of loss. And I'm still, coping with that loss. I'm still learning to see it as a gain rather than a loss. Like your brain tells you that, you don't belong anywhere, that you've lost your family and this and that. But you know in your right mind that you didn't lose anything. You've gained clarity, you've gained peace and an opportunity to discover your real authentic self and not have to deal with people stressing you out and dealing with their problems and living in, their denial. And, you get to live in realness, in reality. And I've been really blessed along the way to see the people that are starting to sit at my table and cultivating and developing friendships that I really didn't see coming or seeing as a possibility. And that has been super imperative to the journey of not just healing, but like discovering my authentic self and having that support, which we all need a support system. I'm really grateful for what I have because, yeah, there are times where my mind likes to play tricks on me and tell me that I'm alone and I don't have anybody, especially since, like I shared also this year, I went no contact with my quote unquote best friend of 20 years. Coming to a full realization that all these people that I've cut out of my life really were never for me, that they really didn't care about me like ever. That's been really, really hard to process, but necessary. You know what I mean? And among it all, the motivation has always been to teach my daughter to witness strength and to witness how to sit at the table with people who respect you and not to take disrespect and not to make yourself small for the comfort of other people. She isn't blind. She's 13 years old. She's had to deal with a lot of tough things and continues to deal with a lot of tough things. And we're definitely on the hunt to get her some, talk therapy so she can feel like she's got the tools to handle what she's going through because it can seem like it's far removed at times that kids pick up on things or experience deep hurts over real life issues. But like I've shared before on this podcast too, I remember being her age and having a deep sea of emotions and just wanting someone to stop and care. And so my job as a mom these days really is validating her experience, being there for her. And I'm really blessed that we have her here being homeschooled and that she knows that I'm here for her like 100% of the time and 100% of the ways that I can possibly be here. Obviously, no parent is perfect, and I'm always learning to pivot and what I can do better. And I'm just really grateful. She's such a good kiddo. We feel really, really blessed that she's our kid. So, that being said, there have been some very interesting developments over here on the no contact journey. And I have expressed these to some of my close friends, which again, I'm so grateful for. And you know who you are if you're listening. But basically, it was about 2.5 weeks ago where it was such a beautiful day here in Wisconsin. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, the seasonal depression on top of the depressive disorder that comes out of my post-traumatic stress disorder, plus recovering from, a surgery over this last year really did a number on me, okay? And it just speaks to God's strength of holding it together, holding me together during these times. It was a long and cold winter, but we've had some glimmers of beautiful weather along the way, and like I'm sitting here right now and it's mid-April, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can definitely probably pick up on the fact that I'm struggling with some humidity right now, which is just kind of bizarre to have tornado watches and this kind of weather. But any weather that allows me to step outside the sweatpants, sweaters vibe, I am so grateful for. Part of developing my authentic self really is rediscovering my passion for fashion and hair and makeup and allowing myself, to express myself with those things. But to get back to the point is I remember a couple of weeks ago, it was a beautiful Monday and I was so grateful because Mondays around here can seem really sullen. Like I said, like coming out of the winter time and stuff, because like I've spent the whole weekend with my husband and then he goes back to work and it can really kind of be a hard adjustment without him. Like I'm learning not to depend on him so much as a safety net in terms of my emotional welfare, like, but we really do love having him around. So it's an adjustment. But when it's beautiful outside, like we're talking 76 and sunny, it's like I'm able to distract myself and get out there and really make the most of life. So that's what I did that day. I just did the most, right? It was like 2:30 in the afternoon and my daughter asked to go hang out with her friend and I was like, "Of course." And her friend was set to come and pick her up at a certain time and since it was so beautiful, I was like, "Let's go and sit on the patio in the back side of our house." And I don't know if I've explained this before, but basically we have a house and then we have a walkway between the house and the garage. And at the end of that walkway is like a little patio that we sit and stuff. And you kind of have to get in the right position from the road to be able to see down that alleyway to our patio. But in general, it's not like we're fully out there in the open, but we were sitting out there enjoying each other's company. Like I was honestly, actively, consciously, presently in the moment, enjoying life with my daughter and like building this bond. And to be honest with you, for the first time in a long time, Big Pam was the furthest thing from my mind. And again, if you're new here, Big Pam is the estranged birth person that I have in my life that lives across the street. Definitely got myself in a situation by moving across the street and buying a house in the same neighborhood, in the same general zip code as my birth person. But God's going to use all things for the good of those that love Him. He's going to use it for my good. I am firmly believing that right now. But I've been fighting to get her out of my head. And that's why I've been going to therapy. I mean, I grew up in a narcissistic family cult, and she is a narcissist. There's no doubt about it. And part of that is not just running away from the issue, it's doing the work in the mind because I was conditioned to be the family scapegoat and take her crap for so many years. I mean, about 35 years. In the June, July area of time, it'll be about 3 years that I have shared my desire to go no contact and have not actively extended myself to make contact with her. Now, has she done the same? No. And there was a lot of time there that I would adjust my life to avoid her at all costs, meaning like just very active to be aware of like where she is, like what time of day she's at work so I don't come out of the house when she's driving down the street or jumping the fence in my backyard to go the back way if she's out there. Just a lot of of adjustments to work around not dealing with Big Pam. So I was really proud of myself that Monday where like she didn't even come to mind. I was just living presently, grateful for my life, and that gives me hope. But out of nowhere, my daughter, her body language shifted and I saw her get pent up, and all of a sudden I saw Big Pam's car pull up in the front of our house, like slowly by that alleyway to see if she could get a glimpse of us. Well, I think she wanted a glimpse of my daughter, but really she does this to get under my skin. As much as they act very blindsided as to why their kids don't want to talk to them or have them in their life, they know that they cause pain just by pushing those boundaries of not honoring the no contact. So it was kind of a twofer for her. But my daughter got up out of her chair and like out of the line of sight really fast. And I was kind of confused. I didn't put two and two together that this was Big Pam kind of scrolling by super slow at like 0.02 miles an hour to see if she could, you know, wrangle her neck to see what was going on back there. And I got up slowly out of my chair and I followed what I call my emergency protocol, which is to go in the back room of my garage because I can lock the back door, and I can also lock the interim door between the back garage and the front garage in case, she would come into the garage. I would have this locked off area where I could feel safe and not have contact with her. And that's actually really big growth for me because you're talking to somebody last year that when my scapegoat collapse happened, I realized that it actually wasn't safe and that she could like in theory bait me to do something physical that I would regret or that would make me pay the consequences for her abuse. So I realized that out of the fight or flight, I had to leave the fight and go to flight. And so that's been the biggest thing for me is to have the emergency exits at all time to avoid contact with her. So we went in the back room, I locked the doors, and of course, we pulled up our handy dandy cameras that we got specifically to monitor the situation with our neighbors. You think you're going over the top when you order these, finally, like, yeah, am I really going to need these? This is kind of silly. And we needed those like the day after my husband got them installed. So I was able to see her pull away and, finally leave the vicinity. And I sent my daughter inside and I came out and was slowly walking in that alleyway, but like looking down and like texting my husband, like check the cameras and save this for evidence because like I've said before, we're not really 100% sure how we're going to handle this in the future, but like if you ever go the legal routes, you need evidence. So I was just texting him that, and I looked up and Big Pam was actually standing across the street. Just the classic horror movie vibes. Like I've shared before, I always bring up the movie Hereditary because it's so relatable for me because I really do think what she's doing is witchcraft and evil, and she's just a scary looking human being these days. Like she's not looking cute these days, okay? I pray every day that I continue to go the opposite way and look less and less like my birth person. I've never been more grateful that I look more like the father I've never met than this person. But I've also shared before that like I can't even really see her face. I just see her general form because my brain like registers that her face is too traumatic for me to see. Because as somebody who was raised as a scapegoat, as a child of a narcissistic parent, like their moods on their face and the way that their eyes look and the way that their face contorts in anger and all their varying negative emotions, or even like when you know that they're wearing a mask of positivity or like any kind of quote good emotion, it's all fake. It's sickening. It actually, you have like an aversion. I have an aversion to my birth person's person and her overall demeanor, like everything. I just blah, blah. So I looked up and unfortunately we made eye contact, which is the most contact that Big Pam and I have had since my scapegoat collapse in late May last year. I stayed completely calm. And once she saw that I had made eye contact with her and looked down, she started yelling across the street, yelling for my daughter, yelling that all she wants to do is know how my daughter is and that she loves her. And this was my favorite part too, was that she loves me too, by the way, right? Like they do not understand that they are not allowed to have a relationship with my daughter without having a healthy relationship with me and my husband. Like they want to bypass this whole situation right here completely. And, that's what we told them way back when we cut them off from seeing my daughter late last year for the end of time or until she's 18 and she can handle her own situation. I can't control it. But I said that, like, you can't have a relationship with my daughter without having a healthy relationship with us. And she's like, we do have a great relationship with our granddaughter. And it's like they refuse to hear the truth. It's like they just want to bypass this whole situation. So, number one, just hearing that confirmed that she's just like, oh, yeah, by the way, you too. But also, guys, like hearing those professions of quote her love as she's stalking me, as she's harassing me, literally made me sick to my stomach. After I looked back down, I continued to walk around up to my steps and calmly into my house and just continued to ignore her bellowing across the street of all her crap. And of course, my daughter found it super creepy, which I didn't put into her head at all. Like she's just been witnessing this behavior, especially over the last 6 months. Of course, I've had to share that we're like no contact. And of course, I've had to share that I think that her grandparents are not safe people in the sense where like they don't respect her parents. They think they know better than her parents. They think that they're entitled to my daughter. They think they're entitled to having us in their life. They think they're entitled to our property. They think that we are their property. So there is some of that, but in general, like when she sees that they're scouting the area for us all the time and trying to get a peek and harassing and screaming at us about their stuff, like I mean anybody else would say it's creepy too. We were inside and I was trying to handle the situation because I was nervous about her friend showing up and her grandmother still being out there and her being in the middle of it all. And this is the stuff that's super hard for me because I can't control like all the aspects in the current situation of living across the street from these crazy Looney Tunes. But the one thing I took away from that whole experience that I felt super proud of was the growth of me not having a visceral like reaction in terms of my blood pressure getting super high, my heartbeat pounding through my chest, or spiraling, as they say. I felt in control of my emotions. I felt like I looked at her as with pity, like this is her problem. This isn't a me problem. I didn't feel beckoned to go solve her emotional issues or to resolve the no contact issue and reconcile with her. I didn't feel any of that pressure. I just felt like this is a sick woman with a mental disorder and clearly she's losing it. Like my therapist would say, this is evidence of our boundaries working essentially. And it's exposing exactly who she is. If she had spent more time going to therapy and being more self aware and reflective, we probably could have reconciled at this time. But like I've said, narcissists aren't going to do that. And she hasn't. She's just used all her energy to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and putting her fake agenda out there about her daughter being difficult and her being this perfect grandmother and having no clue as to why her daughter is no contact, even though she's been told several times. I think they say it's the average of 7 times before somebody leaves an abusive relationship. And I can honestly look back and see like my first time of like trying to leave was when I was just turned 18. And then like I can bookmark about that many times before I finally pulled the plug 3 years ago and was like, I can't have her anymore. Like I'm out of this relationship. So I was really proud to reflect on the fact that I don't know if it's because like it is therapy and I've grown to realize all these things, but like also it's such a beautiful day that I refuse to be plummeted down to the abyss emotionally and lose the beautiful day that we had because I have just been cooped up for 6 friggin' months, man. And also coming out of that whole like shingle experience and what I realized the most important, like what's going to take me down is anything that is going to separate like me and my husband or our family. Like that is what I realize is the most important to me or what deserves like the most reaction out of me. So I didn't have anything left to give it. And I really was thinking about that. And I was like, wow, like I handled that very well. And, my daughter seemed like she handled it well. We moved on. Big Pam went inside eventually and her friend came just in the right time. She got to hang out with her friend and my husband came home and we were just like talking about things. And that was wonderful. But again, I'm diagnosed with PTSD. So sometimes it takes a little bit of time for things to really hit and understand what you're feeling. And I did about a week after that feel like incredible sadness because it's like your parent just keeps hurting you and they don't care. Like I know that she's a narcissist and she doesn't care, but like sometimes you think about that, you're like, wow, my birth person literally could care less that they're causing anguish and sadness about just wanting to hurt me. It's insane. They're only thinking about them and their needs, right? So there have been some down days in between there, but God is faithful. He resurrects me, and I definitely look for what we call glimmers, right? And that's exactly what was going on. Is I was looking forward to this last weekend. I was looking forward to spending the weekend, obviously, with my family. It's our favorite, and we had our certain plans. And also on Monday, I was really looking forward to my, I think it's about, let me see here, 4 or 5 month post-op appointment in Chicago for my brachioplasty surgery. I was really looking forward to doing that because, as I've shared, that is basically our alone time, my husband and I. It's like the one thing I do for myself. I could easily Zoom that appointment. Like, I haven't had like any issues with my recovery, so I don't really need to go in all the way to Chicago. It's about a 3.5 hour drive, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, just really depends. But I could easily Zoom my doctor and just be like, hey, all good. But it's really nice to keep that rapport open with your doctor and just, let them see kind of how you're progressing. And like I said, like I use this time for my husband to take off of work and to be my little chauffeur moment, which he loves to do. He's been there since day one. He's like, I'm driving you. I'm going with you. Like, he's been wonderful. It's not like it's always a perfect trip or anything, but it's something that we have built together over the almost 6 years of going on this plastic surgery journey. So I use it like a date day. I get up, I get dressed, I put on, and we go together. And I know a lot of people say, like, oh, people just go no contact and break up families for no reason. And it's like, do you think it was easy to cut out the only village that I had? Like, I grew up with minimal family to begin with because of Big Pam pulling us away from our family 2,000 miles away, that a lot of the village that I had were them and my sibling when we'd want to go on vacation or have date days or date nights or to watch our animals so that we could go as a family somewhere. That's who we use. So, like, overnight, when we cut the final thing off with my sibling, we stopped having that luxury. And as I explained over the last episode, when things have gotten kind of strained with my in-laws as well, I don't really like to reach out for them to help either, because I feel like it's a dangling carrot scenario too, where it's like they, do something for us. I feel like we have to do something for them, even though it's about their relationship with their granddaughter. I still feel like it's a burden or something. So honestly, we haven't spent alone time together since February 14th. Valentine's Day was the last time my husband and I actually had spent intentional time alone together. All that to say that the weekend started out really well. My husband came home on Friday and we just hung out. And then on Saturday, we had plans to do all of our errands, which, for this girl over here, it has to do with a little bit of thrifting. I have to ship my orders and we have to go to the grocery store, all of those things, the little Saturday run moments. So I got up early. My husband and I went for a walk together because we're finally in that season again where we can start our little walks, which again is like our alone time that I really do treasure. And we were just having a great morning, and we got out the door super early. My husband pulled the car out of the garage and, was warming up the car for us. It's still a little chilly in the mornings. So my daughter and I, we walked to the car, and every time I like walk to the car confidently, I'm so proud of myself because usually I'm like popping around the corner seeing if Big Pam is out or whatever. And I didn't. We just got in the car. My husband got in the car and then he forgot something, so he got out of the car. And then he came back in the car and he seemed a little perturbed. He seemed a little annoyed. We pulled out of the driveway and we started driving, and I was kind of poking a little bit. And he was like, "You didn't hear?" Like, he started whispering because we don't always want to bring everything to my daughter's attention. But he was like, "You didn't hear who yelling across the street from her window?" And I was like, no, we didn't hear it. The music was going in the car, thank God. But yeah, Big Pam was already yelling across the street, yelling out for my daughter. So my husband heard that, and we were just talking on the way that I was like, maybe I should start looking into, different routes to handle this, because now, like I said, now that it's like springtime, summertime, things are thawing out, people are out and about, the contact is easier to have, it's harder to avoid in these things like that. So we were kind of just talking about our options, and we continued on with our day and had a really great errand run. As a matter of fact, my husband treated me like to my very first brand new pot set, like pots and pans for my kitchen. And I mean, I was just beaming ear to ear. I just feel so blessed. I was even telling my daughter as we were putting groceries in the cart, like, I was like, back right before like you were born, like when I was pregnant with my daughter, we were so poor. We were so poor. I don't know if you're familiar with the brand Value Time, but like it's like 40 cents a box of mac and cheese, and it's terrible mac and cheese. Like we had to scrape our change together to even buy that. And now it's like I pretty much put stuff in the cart without really thinking anything about it. Like, your girl isn't going to shopping at Prada or anything like that, but like I don't have that same worry. Like God really has taken care of us and provided for us. And I'm just like I'm so grateful. There aren't words. And I was just telling that to my daughter that I was feeling very grateful. So we're coming back from the stores and we're ready to just, bring it all inside. And we had plans to do like some spring cleaning, maybe a little fire out in our backyard because the weather was so nice. And I have a ton of stuff to do, guys. Like I've shared, like I've been recovering from surgery. I live in a state that it's like you can't really get outdoors much. And we just have so much yard work to do. I have so much organization in my garage to do. I had so much work in my reselling business to do. Just a lot of things on the agenda that you want to use your time wisely for. So that's kind of what was on the agenda. And so, right as we were pulling into our driveway, I just happened to look in my rearview mirror and I saw my birth person open the curtains and I saw her form in the window. And I was like, oh, I just had that feeling that a lot of people tell you, like my sibling used to do, oh, just relax. Oh, chill out. You're just being paranoid, right? No. Before I knew it, we got out of the car. My husband shut the garage door, and Big Pam had made a beeline from her room to where she likes to stand across the street. And she immediately started bellowing out for my daughter, right? And then yelling out directly to us. Basically, what I remember was her yelling, "You can't stay in that garage forever." Because, like I said, we have to walk from our garage to our house, a little walkway moment. And I was hell bent on staying in the garage until Big Pam, wasn't going to be out there. I surely wasn't going to send my daughter to intercept that whatsoever. So we were just standing in the garage and just going to wait it out. And then she said, just yelling and yelling and yelling from across the street. And you're probably thinking to yourself, don't you have neighbors? Yes, we do. She does not give a flying about any of that. And it's weird because narcissists care about their image, but right now her image is being like this victim ridden mentality of being a grandmother who's estranged and just bewildered about it and just so undeserving, all of these things. So we were standing there and of course I mean I was fine. I was like, this is pretty much what we expected and I was fine. But it escalated. It happened where she's like, that's it, I'm crossing the street. And you know what? We don't own the sidewalk. We don't own the lawn that's attached to the sidewalk. She is technically allowed to stand there. So she started there. She started to come across the street and yell from the sidewalk. And where you're like, what is she yelling? She's yelling out things about like, to my minor child, right? My 13-year-old child, things like, we love you, we miss you, we all miss you. I even started like plugging my daughter's ears and I was just giving her a hug and I'm like, I am so sorry this is going on right now. And I was starting to get a little nervous. And then all of a sudden, she started walking and trespassing on our property. And my husband locked the garage door and she started pounding on the garage door that we were like we were basically like hostages in our own garage. She started pounding on the doors, saying like, how could you do this to your own mother? And I started plugging my own ears and I started going into a spiral myself because this crossed the boundary. Like I had her managed when she was across the street at this point, even though the no contact boundary was being crossed. I had learned to manage and regulate beyond that. But the boundary of this is my safe space and this is my whatever, she does not validate that whatsoever. I mean, I'm her daughter, so she owns this property. She's allowed to just come on this property and totally obviously doesn't respect my husband as a grown adult, clearly. So she was pounding on there for about 15 minutes because we were going back and forth. Like, we never wanted to have the authorities called, we never wanted to get them involved in something that could have been handled if people could just respect people's boundaries. And the sad part is she knows how to respect people's boundaries because she has a job that she's had for many years. Now, granted, she does cross boundaries at work. She has probably been called to the HR department more than the average person because she offends people all the time by pushing her faith in nonsense and like veiled insults. You know what I mean? Like, she's being like rude and treating you just grossly, she knows that there are rules to abide by. Like, she would have never done this behavior to the neighbor next to me, like somebody that wasn't, quote, related to her or her child. She would know better that this is stalking, this is trespassing, this is harassment. So my husband finally, after all this time, felt like we had no other recourse but to call the cops. So that's what we did. And I was just freaking out. Like, I was in between, like, checking on my kid and just like trying to keep myself sane. And they came and they caught her, obviously trespassing, and she put on her mask really quickly. But my husband went out there and she was yelling at the cop, saying, like, see, he won't even look at me. He won't even talk to me. And it's like, yeah, get the point, get the picture. No, we gray rock. We do not acknowledge Big Pam. My husband took him behind the house to talk to, which she was mad about. She's like, why can't you talk in front of me? Because we don't have conversations with lunatics. Okay. So he took our statement, he gave us some advice, and he made sure to tell Big Pam that she can't be doing the trespassing thing. And he was asking my husband, like, what it's all about. And he basically said it stems from like years of narcissistic abuse. And the cop was like, totally understand. He's got an aunt that is difficult and the same kind of thing. So he was very, very helpful. But what was scary is as soon as he stopped talking to my husband to go deal with Big Pam, my husband had an eruption of stress. My husband is really, really chill and laid back. I'm not saying he doesn't get cranky sometimes. I'm not saying that he doesn't ever have like people piss him off in public, okay? Especially with bad driving or bad customer service, right? But in general, he's like a really chill guy. It takes a lot to get under his skin. I mean, that's why, hello, have we met? So the fact that he had all of this pent up stress from this situation over the last 10, 11 months, so this has been building, and he's been seeing how month after month, week after week, day after day, that what I said was going to happen is happening. It like erupted from him. Like, he was having chest pains, stomach pains. He didn't know what the hell was happening. I thought I might have to call 911 again and get the ambulance for him. He's a fairly healthy male, young male. So it pulled me out of my spiral because I had to make sure one of my daughter's parents was like in the moment, capable of handling the scenario. And it made me sick to my stomach that Big Pam was causing this kind of distress on my family. Not only was my husband having a complete stress breakdown, but my daughter had been a part now again of a psychological abuse. And, the guilt that comes from, your grandmother calling out for you, saying, come out here and tell me to my face that you don't want contact with me and I'll leave you alone. Talking to a minor. Like, Big Pam is a 3-year-old trapped in a 60-some-year-old body. It is just unbelievable. It took some time after that whole ordeal for us to regulate. Like, it pissed me off on so many different levels. But he had also had enough too. And so we started really looking seriously into our options. But for our weekend was kind of shot because all of a sudden we're headed to the, man store to get wood and nails and jury rig a gate so that Big Pam can't see right down the alleyway between our house and our garage anymore. So, like, if she ever does that again, where she's across the street waiting for us to come out of the garage, like, at least she can't see us because the gate would be closed. So my husband's not a woodworking man. He's not a handyman that way. He's a tech guy. Okay. You got a friggin' virus on your computer. Great. He can help you out. You have, a document you can't find. He can help you out. But like, hammers and nails are not my man's thing. But like, this might be the most romantic thing ever in terms of like him just being like, I'm going to figure it out. So we went to Menards and dropped money on a fence that we shouldn't even have to do, right? And it takes so much time and money and energy in ways that you don't even understand until you're going through it. And that's what we did on Sunday. We all were working hard in our house. My daughter was spring cleaning. I was baking and cooking and decorating because those things help me feel regulated. They make me feel really good. And then my husband was working outside on this fence gate thing. And so on Monday, we decided to go to our local county and start looking into our legal options as far as how we want to pursue the future when it comes to this issue in my life. And I mean, I wish I could say I didn't see this coming, but I kind of did. I always knew that, like, she doesn't, a lot of narcissists, they barely recognize legal consequences, because they just think that they're right and they're entitled to like everything. So it was really, really challenging on Monday then to really fully enjoy the date day because we knew we had to go home and deal with real life and whatnot. But we were still able to enjoy that time together. And so I guess I just want to take the last few minutes and share the glimmer in my life, which is this really cool journey that I've experienced with plastic surgery. As you guys know, like I just experienced my latest combination surgery round, which was a brachioplasty, lipo of my arms, and then I also did a fat transfer to my butt and my hip in certain areas to kind of just do a little bit more work on my silhouette and things like that. I do have listed episodes that you can find on plastic surgery. But yeah, this was my fourth round of combination surgery. I had my surgery on November 25th. Out of all of the surgeries I have had, guys, I will say that coming out of my anesthesia this round was intense. In terms of pain, it was really bad. I ain't gonna lie to you. And here's the thing, if you're thinking about getting plastic surgery, it's really great to get all of the information that you possibly can on every level. You obviously don't want to take in too much from other people because everyone's experience is so different. Everyone's pain tolerance is so different. Everyone's journey is so different. So going in with a positive mindset is really important. But to say that you wake up and like there's butterflies and rainbows happening, no, it is extremely painful. I am very blessed because I do go to a private practice. Again, my provider is double board certified, Dr. Azizi in Chicago. He's been my surgeon since day one. I am truly an Azizi doll. And I love his work and I love his bedside manner and I love his just the whole package, right? It's wonderful. And my husband and I have really grown through the whole entire journey with him and with each other. And it's been really awesome. So I'm well taken care of. So I have had rounds in the past with Dr. Azizi where I had to have it at like a hospital and then you wake up in recovery with like strangers essentially. And that's a totally different vibe. But the last couple of times I've gotten to have it at his surgery center that he developed over the last course of, I think it's like maybe 3 years that he's had that. So, I mean, that was really nice. But yeah, it was incredibly painful. I can show you here on YouTube. It's hard to explain when you're listening to it, but basically, I had an incision from my elbow all the way up around my armpit and then down to the side of my breast. And that helped not just take away the loose skin on my arms, but it also helped tighten some of that back area. And it also kind of helped readjust the positions of my breast because, like I shared before, in my round three, I had a reverse tummy tuck essentially, where like they lifted the skin from the upper stomach and then pulled it into my lower breast lift scars. And that gave me a lot less loose skin after, because even if you have a tummy tuck, if you have loose skin on the upper part of your stomach, the regular tummy tuck isn't going to deal with it. That's why a lot of people end up getting like the fleur de lis, the FDL tummy tuck, which goes, the vertical through the stomach and then the horizontal at the bottom. But my surgeon is wonderful and he knows that I'm like very dedicated to do this in steps to get to the goal that I had. So to avoid a lot of additional scarring and trauma to my body, we staged these differently. So then I did my tummy tuck and then I did my reverse tummy tuck. So when I had that done, like I said, it changed how my breasts kind of sat. They weren't bad or anything. I just all of a sudden went from loving my breast lift to like, no, no, no. So this actually, when he did this adjustment with the side here, it just made everything look really great up on the breast front. So like it's funny, like all these little nuances happen when you do these little tweaks. But the neatest thing, which I mean, like he said, I don't know if anyone would be like, when I said like, "Oh, there's got to be some kind of a record," like I'm proud of like how much fat he removed, but I had 1500 cc's of fat sucked out of one arm and 1400 cc's of fat sucked out of the other. That's a lot of cc's of stubborn fat to be left behind, guys. When people are like, "Why don't you just lose all this weight like to get rid of all the extra fat in your arms?" Where it's like, I am at a comfortable weight for myself. Like this is a maintainable 10 to 20 pound range up and down, like that I'm comfortable at and I feel like I like myself at. I wasn't going to, then lose all that weight and then not have fat when you're trying to build a booty or you're trying to build a silhouette. Very, very hard to do. It's counterproductive, right? So I think he said I was only one person that he's ever worked with that had more fat lipoed out of their arms than me. And it also made me feel very validated because I told my husband all the time that like my arms were large, like they were very, very large, like a typical implant for people that they like or like the 500 cc implants. I had like three 500 cc implants in my arm I was carrying around. Like your girl is able to wear medium tops now without cutting off my arm. You know what I'm saying? It's incredible. You can always come over to at the Next Level Glam podcast and you can kind of see the before and afters. And I'll definitely keep updating those as I feel are needed. But that was great. Like as far as like the lower fat transfers that I experienced on my butt and my hip, super easy. I've had so many BBLs at this point that like I know what to expect. I do get really sad when the swelling goes down because I'm not really scared to have a big rumpus like at all. I love my doctor's work. He does a wonderful job shaping and all of that. About 30 to 50%, depending who you talk to, your body reabsorbs that fat and the rest get blood supply and hang out. So like what I have at this point is going to be, permanent. I mean, people can always get reductions and stuff, but like you shouldn't have to do that if you have it done right and you know what you want and you're taking care of yourself or you're maintaining your weight. It shouldn't like the blob or it like takes over your life and gets out of control or anything. But that portion of my surgery recovery was super easy. It was definitely the arms not being able to, I mean, like I felt very it felt very weird to like put my arms down because I had all these stitches like in the armpit area and stuff and it was those are large incisions. So I was really just focused on not opening those up, and that was also challenging because my doctor is a firm believer on not sitting on your behind or wherever you've had fat transfer. So like even my hip on my left side where I had it transferred, like you're not allowed to be on it for at least 3 weeks for him. That's his protocol. That's my favorite side to sleep on. So it was, I mean, it wasn't easy by any means. I actually had to sleep on my knees a lot to stay off my butt. And then you wouldn't even want to know the positions I had to do in order to get up and off without using my arms to push or do much of anything because I didn't want to like bust my incisions open. The swelling was super intense with the brachioplasty. I mean, my hands just like blew up like balloons. Like you wouldn't believe the amount of swelling that happened after surgery. But it's been worth it. Like I am, like I said, I don't know if you could see, but you can see my arms in YouTube. They look so nice. I really started I think I've been sharing that I started working out. I think it was like January 8th or January 15th. One of those weeks, I started just slowly building the stretching, the walking, building up my steps. And then just recently, I've been doing my V shred again. And it's really hard because like I keep having things like kind of stop the process. Like the shingles, for instance, I had to cut off working out for like a week and a half or so because the sweating wasn't allowed. And then I started again building the steps and then starting the V shred. And then it's like things like this issue with no contact will come up and really kind of divert me from being as like with follow through because I'm focusing my attention on surviving and healing and getting some stuff done instead of focusing on building my muscle. But I mean, honestly, I'm not even 6 months out, so I have to give myself grace, but they look super wonderful. I feel like I've never liked myself more when I look in the mirror. Like life is imperfect, obviously. Am I done having plastic surgery? Probably not. I wish I could say different. I don't even know if I wish I could say different, that I wish different. I like plastic surgery. I like being able to change things that bother me. I don't see anything wrong with it whatsoever. And if there's something that bothers you that can be done, I mean, you absolutely deserve to find peace in your body. I just, it's like some people, I was raised with one who would say that I'm very vain and that's a sin, but, cares about her. Well, did care. She did care about her uh, appearance until a certain point, and then she kind of morphed into like this really like this grandma-esque like person where she doesn't care. She wears like sweater vests and just doesn't do anything with herself anymore. But she used to do like her makeup and color her hair all the time. And I was like, you don't get to draw the line on sin. Like I say, like we don't have a sin problem anymore. We have a sun problem, and you either have the sun or you don't. And we have grace and liberty to enjoy this life. And I'm not hurting anybody. But like I've shared at that last episode where I got shingles, and I heard from my husband's side of the family that they think that I am selfish, and people always assume when you get plastic surgery that you're lazy and that you don't work out and that you should just work out, and they think that you're just pissing your husband's money away, not caring about the fact that I'm hustling behind the scenes as a reseller, that I've been hustling behind the scenes for 10 years working out and building a lifestyle that encourages and maintains my results. That's not easy to do. I started out massively overweight with massive body issues. My surgeon doesn't have you come in there and do surgeries on you that you don't need or wouldn't get freedom from. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely needed them. But they also don't seem to realize that my husband is my supporter. And although I have shared on this podcast initially when we crossed the path of going about plastic surgery, that of course cost was a concern for him because I mean, we're everyday people. But I'm different than most women. I'm not asking for the Gucci bags or the Gucci shoes or the crazy vacations. I'm willing to diminish a lot of different things to have this be my thing. I hate that I have that feeling to like justify my decisions. And I guess that's pretty typical for people who were raised the way that was raised and dealt with abuse and stuff. But also, people fail to realize that he absolutely loves my results. And you either get what I'm saying or you don't. But he loves what's popping over here, and I'm super content. And if you have any specific questions about a brachioplasty or liposuction or plastic surgery or the journey in general, do not hesitate to come over again to my Instagram at the Next Level Glam podcast. I'm happy to answer those for you. I just wanted to do a real check in about like my actual experience. You know, Dr. Azizi totally killed it. He did amazing work. I'm not gonna lie, the swelling lasts for a long time. So I still have, you can kind of see how my arm is kind of still swollen. Plastic surgery is not a sprint, it is a marathon. The scars over time, I'm doing scar treatment right now on them all the time. And I just know usually sunscreen to keep them for the first year, especially, you want to keep them babies covered in sunscreen, but they'll lighten in time and the swelling goes down. I would say about a year and a half is a real sweet spot to really see your final results. But at almost, 5 months, I'm fairly content. I'll keep you posted on any developments in time, but my next appointment is in late September, and I won't share too much about that right now, but there's definitely some exciting stuff on the agenda for that appointment. And we have exciting stuff on the agenda as a family for 2026 that I'm excited to share about. And I am taking it, as they say, the cliche day to day and letting the Lord fight my battles, because I could sit here and I could get super stressed about the next time she decides to fully cross our boundaries, how we're going to handle it, or the worst case scenarios of how she's going to be vindictive or, retaliate or whatever she feels like she needs to do. But I can't sit there and worry. I know that I serve a good God and that I am his child and that he fights all my battles. He goes before me and he's going to use all things for my good. And he has wonderful things for me. So, in the meantime, I've just been really enjoying trying a new makeup company. I don't know if I shared that either. I stepped away from the prior makeup and skincare company that I really only did because of Big Pam. I grew up with Big Pam doing the certain makeup brand, and I had a wonderful experience with working as an independent consultant for this makeup brand. It has really nothing to do with them. I mean, granted, the current one I'm at is definitely a little bit more non-toxic and safe and bougie, but it had to do with the fact that it's kind of like an aversion to something because it's connected to Big Pam. You can't help the fact that those pillow shams that she gave you for Christmas that you actually did love all of a sudden make you sick because they remind you of Big Pam. And you can't help the fact that every time you grab a skincare bottle that has a logo on it, it reminds you of Big Pam. And it's like, I continue to eradicate Big Pam from my life more and more every single day. And the more distance I get from Big Pam, the better person that I am. And my family can testify to that. And they're worth it. And I'm worth it. And so I've just been kind of delving into like the new skincare, the new makeup, working out, taking my results to the next level, taking care of me, hydrating, and enjoying my morning walks and nurturing my marriage and working on homeschool and cultivating a really healthy relationship with my daughter, breaking that generational trauma. And I mean, I could just go on and on and on, not just about my problems, but about God's goodness. But we need to show up in the real and share that we do as believers deal with real problems. And sometimes, like I've shared before, God keeps these in our life to keep us dependent on him. It's supposed to look impossible. I know he's going to handle it. He's always come through. He always makes a way. And again, if you need any support, whether it's about narcissistic abuse, whether it's about plastic surgery, whether it's about the no contact journey, whether it's about makeup and skincare, whether it's about working out, your girl is here for you. Okay. This is like me trying to be a big sis to you in Christ. I know this wasn't like a super spiritual episode, but like we're normal people. We're not supposed to be all weird and stuff. I'm just an everyday person who goes after what the Lord has put on her heart. And that is to really just minister peace and freedom and grace and liberty to you while showing up in the real and realize, hey, girl, We got some problems that the Lord is fighting, and I can't wait to tell you how He's handling it in the future. And I can't wait to see you next time here at the Next Level Glam podcast for a new episode hosted by yours truly. It's one of my biggest treasures and blessings to be able to have this platform and use it how I feel the Lord wants me to use it, and connect with even just one person who feels loved and seen from what I talk about on this podcast. That is the goal. So I hope to see you next time here for a new episode. And until then, per usual, continue to rest and grow in His grace.